In 2016, KyoAni released A Silent Voice into theaters. Considered one of their best works to date by many, the film is about a boy named Shoya Ishida finding redemption for bullying Shoko Nishimiya, a deaf girl. The film instantly resonated with millions of people and myself when I reviewed the film way back in 2017. The review is of course still up to see, but thanks to Right Stuff, they provided me with a box set for the limited edition version of A Silent Voice. Thanks to this, I was able to go back and watch this film and finally review a film I've always actually wanted to re-review for the longest time. But as well, I'll be giving away this box set that I used to review this film to one lucky viewer. So stick around until later in the video where I will share with you the details on how to enter this giveaway. But until then, let's get into this redemption review for the 2016 film A Silent Voice. Directed by longtime KyoAni staffer Naoko Yamada, who got her first directing role with K-On!, went on to direct well-received films from KyoAni like K-On! The Movie, Tamako Market, its sequel, Tamako Love Story, and as well Liz and the Bluebird. Accompanying her is her partner and writer for the film, Reiko Yoshida. Yoshida and Yamada have a history together, with Yoshida usually serving as the writer for Yamada-directed series. Needless to say, they're a great pair. The film itself tells a simple one: Shoya Ishida's redemption from when he bullied Shoko Nishimiya in elementary school. Brutal and cruel, Shoya did awful things like ripping out Shoko's hearing aid. Shoya himself even gets bullied and turned on by his classmates after Shoko moves away. But years later, the two reunite, and after their meeting, Shoya decides to commit suicide. This is no joke either. This film deals with a lot of heavy elements which over the years I have always respected, whether it be the manga, which I read first, or the anime, which I watched second. These are real issues people all around the world face, and they're presented in a real and hard-hitting way. Kids are absolutely cruel in this film because that's just what kids do. They have no tact. They're tiny little psychopaths. Except Shoko, she's precious. But the point being is that if you're used to the usual moe or fan service stuff from KyoAni, then this will really surprise you, I think. But getting more into the story itself, A Silent Voice is one packed rich with detail in its writing, and that can't be more evident than the plethora of detail on display. Details like the sign language for grandma being used in this scene to suggest that Nishimiya's grandmother may have passed, but is still looking over them. Those small details is really what makes A Silent Voice such a rewatchable and highly enjoyable experience every time. Once you notice how pink Shoko's tears are, or that Shoya's collar is inside out and viewable to suggest he doesn't care about himself or his appearance, you start to really respect the kind of detail which went into this film. And while those small details like seeing the moment Shoya inspired Naoka to be a bully, I mean, there are those details that are at the forefront of this film which also make it beautiful. I personally love the scene where Shoya and Shoko get into a fight. Shoya sees Shoko cleaning his desk, and so the two fight in what is one of the saddest scenes in the whole film. The two are really just letting out all of these emotions. Shoko more so, and I think this scene is them desperately just trying to understand one another on a very common level. Shoya simply doesn't get it. Why does Shoko try so hard after all this time, even though she's been getting bullied by him? Why is she cleaning his desk? In reality, Shoko is simply just trying her best, and Shoya isn't really accepting that. She doesn't understand why he can't see that, and that frustration is let out in this fight. It's almost like Shoko in this scene is at her wit's end, and she's given up hope that this boy will ever accept her. Then, of course, we see what happens when Shoko finally goes away. Shoya gets bullied, and then we see him cleaning up his desk. And I think it was that realization at that moment when he was cleaning up his desk that helped give Shoya a little jolt, and he finally kind of learned exactly what he was doing to this girl, even though it may have taken longer down the line to fully grasp all of that. But one thing about the story always gets me whenever I watch it, and that's how many parallels, whether through people or through the structure of the story, there are. It's hard to pick just one example because there's actually many of these moments. But the one people will instantly catch is Shoko and Shoya both wanting to suicide. In the beginning of this film, Shoya is suicidal to the point where he's marking down the day on his calendar and has it all planned out to where he'll even do it. Shoko decides that after watching the fireworks that she'll jump from her balcony into the water and kill herself that way. The way the film deals with these parallels goes further than just Shoko and Shoya being suicidal, it goes also to the smallest of small things. We have Shoko offering Naoka her umbrella as a sign that she wants to help, which Shoya did to Yuzuru earlier in the film for roughly the same reason. How about Yeiko and Miyako both becoming friends in the end just like their children have? Or, here's a good one, if you noticed, Yuzuru not letting Shoya see Shoko, which happens later on in the film with Naoka not letting Shoko see Shoya. I don't want to list every single one of them here in this review, but trust me, this film has plenty of parallels, and for good reason. The film is about people after all, and people have parallels. And what do I mean by that? Well, I certainly don't mean it just has people in it, but a silent voice shows the harshest parts of everyone. The regrets we have as children, the regrets we have as adults, the acceptance of others, the loss of hope, but all of those things are there so that the good parts are that much sweeter. Finding someone you like, and possibly love, acceptance of others, growing through friendships, all of that coalesces into the message that is A Silent Voice's story, which is to accept who you are and don't let past regrets or mistakes define who you are today. This is the struggle of Shoko and Shoya and everyone watching this film. Now you see, and the story is so masterfully crafted that this story is one that on the outside may seem hopeless or depressing, maybe even a little too harsh, but once you figure it out, the story becomes one of beauty. And that's the thing, this story originally wasn't even serialized because the publisher and editors at the time thought that this story didn't have a hopeful message. But that just can't be farther from the truth because, like I've already said, in life, you have to take the good with the bad, which is what makes it all work. Silent Voice's story is just that. It's a picturesque version of life we live and all of the harshness and brilliance that it may bring. In many ways, it's perfectly blemished. Oh, that's a good title for the video. And that's perfectly backed up by the art as well, which I do want to discuss because it's such a huge aspect of the film. Studying up about this film again, I am reminded of the techniques used in this film which really make the visual style so unique and unforgettable. From fairly early on, they tried to use more muted colors in this film and not use bright popping colors. This was done to essentially make the series look more like real life, which based on the backgrounds alone, you can say was probably a major success. The muted tones in particular help the backgrounds look more close to their actual real-life counterparts, which are based on Yoshitoki Oima's hometown. The film also uses chromatic aberration to great effect, something KyoAni and many other slice-of-life anime have been using pretty much ever since this film came out in 2016. I am a huge proponent of aberration because I think for slice of life, or really just KyoAni works, it works the best there. But I think that with us talking about this to this day, it shows how much KyoAni really changed a lot of mindsets and viewpoints when it comes to art direction. Just off the top of my head, lots of slice of life or dramatic anime use chromatic aberration now, like, and don't hurt me for bringing this awful anime up, but Domestic Girlfriend is just one of many that have used it noticeably in their art direction up till recently. Or if you're super hip and cool, you'll know Heaven's Feel uses a bit of it as well. But there is one more feature of the art direction, and that's the lenses that is used for this film. Now, I'm not exactly sure what type of lenses they used. I'm sure someone in the comments can help us figure that out, but this completes the nostalgic tone the film is going for. The lens just makes it seem like you are experiencing it from a very personal lens. This is something I believe Naoko Yamada may have suggested, and I believe this was a great choice. All in all, I think A Silent Voice is probably KyoAni's most groundbreaking work in terms of art direction alone. But we've now covered the visuals, the meaning of the story itself, and now it's time to talk about possibly one of my favorite scores in film in general. Now, I've talked about Kensuke Yoshido before with my previous review for A Silent Voice and my review for Devilman Crybaby, but I don't think I really grasped just how great this score was for this film. Essentially, the whole film is Bach's Inventions, which is... I mean, come on. I think most of us has heard of, Inventions at this point, but I think most of us haven't heard Inventions quite like this. Essentially, Yoshido had the idea to possibly play Inventions for just the whole film and was basically told at some point to just go ahead and do that, play Inventions over the whole thing anyways. And this isn't actually what makes this score so great. I mean, it's Inventions. Okay, that's cool, but the way he went about it was something else entirely, and I think you can make an argument he made Inventions his song with his score. So to capture the tone of the film correctly, of the fragility of youth and the harshness of life, the composer and the sound director, Yota Tsuruoka, I'm sorry if I mispronounced any name during this video, put microphones in Yoshido's piano and recorded at a higher bit rate. The goal was to essentially capture the strokes of the hammer hitting the piano wire, the movement of the pedals, and the player's mannerisms. The goal was to capture the most fragile and human performance possible. This leads to a score that you maybe won't notice, but if you win this Blu-ray in the giveaway, I urge you all to please watch the Inner Silence track. This track pretty much removes all dialogue and only leaves in the score from the film. This may seem fairly boring at first to watch, but in reality, it's actually a great way to watch this film because the score itself is so detrimental to this film that you don't even need dialogue or sound effects to enjoy the film. There aren't many anime like that these days, so Yoshido's work on this score is simply profound and amazing for that aspect alone. If there is a film where after you watch it and you go and listen to the score or purchase it, this is absolutely the one, and I really wish I had that vinyl of this soundtrack. That would be amazing. And while the score is amazing, I want to talk about the characters here for a moment. I love them all, in their own special ways. Even Naoka, who is objectively a bad person. Why, you may ask? Well, one of the themes of the film is to accept those mistakes you've made in youth. Naoka is a very interesting character when you look at her. At face value, she doesn't seem like a good person to hang around, and as well, she still bullies Shoko when she tells her she hates her, and then proceeds to slap her across the face. Why would you harm Shoko? Look at her, she's so precious. It's very harsh though, and she shouldn't have gone that far. But I do see why she would hate someone like Shoko. She doesn't like how Shoko lets herself get run over by others and how she's always silent and never stands up for herself. And it makes sense, and I certainly hated to agree with her on this, but it is a flaw for Shoko. But the important part is that Shoko keeps moving forward and continues her growth. This was all just a part of that growth, you know? And Shoko herself is a deceptively strong character, and you wouldn't expect it because she's always so quiet. But on the inside, she can't do anything right from her perspective. She tried to be friends with Shoya even when she was constantly being bullied, in some instances physically harmed by him, one time permanently. She tried to be friends with Naoka, but Naoka hates her. She tried to tell Shoya that she likes him, but Shoya was too oblivious, and thus her attempt sort of failed, but it wasn't her fault. To her, she is a failure. And to the viewer, we can see that that really isn't the truth at all. Shoko is giving it her all, and her strength is unparalleled, unmatched in this film. She's got it the roughest, rougher than even Shoya because she's isolated herself emotionally. And when every time she tries to step out and do the right thing, which is quite often, something unfortunate happens and sets her back, puts her back on that island. I can completely understand why someone like her would be suicidal, even though I think if she simply changes her perspective, she would find that she's actually incredibly strong and inspirational, and that there is nothing to be ashamed about at all. Same goes with Shoya. His character parallels, this is the word of the day after all, with Shoko so nicely. And from this perspective, it also makes sense why Shoko would come to like or even fall in love with Shoya even after being bullied in such a scarring way by him. I guess maybe time does heal all wounds in that sense, but Shoya also has a lot of strengths to him. But while Shoko's strengths shine through, Shoya's fragility is probably his most visible feature. Like I said earlier, his collar shows a sign of weakness, and his divergent gaze suggests he thinks of himself as lower than whoever he's talking to. Shoya is defined by his mannerisms and how he presents himself without ever speaking a word. His one size too small clothes that he doesn't ask to get fixed so he won't be a bother to anyone, his slouching posture that shows he's been beaten down by life and his past. You take one look at the kid, you just want to give him a hug. And I think that's the thing, really. I think Shoya's most negative qualities kind of help make him one of the most endearable characters in this film. It's the exact same thing with Shoko. You simply want to give them a hug and tell them, hey man, girl, everything will be alright in the end. You good. Then you have Yuzuru, who I adore in this film. While Shoko takes her time getting to her destination, Yuzuru, almost like a big sister, keeps her big sister safe. We first see this when Yuzu tells Shoya that she's Shoko's boyfriend. She's the definition of a good big sister, but instead, she's the little sister. It's quite a fascinating mix-up. We see this boyish and more protective side of Yuzu up until Shoya sees she's ran away from home and offers her to stay with them for dinner. Then he walks her back and gives her his older shoes. This earns the trust of Yuzu, and from there on out, they're quite buddy-buddy. And speaking of buddy-buddy, you gotta talk about the two best buds in this film, the two mothers, Eiko Nishimiya and Miyako Ashida. Both obviously have parallels being single mothers, but I think their dynamic in this series is really fascinating. Much like how Shoko ends up falling for her bully, Eiko ends up befriending the mother of her daughter's bully. It's kind of strange when you look at it from that perspective, but it's heartwarming. And I also like their different approaches to parenting. Eiko is very strict, and you can tell she works very hard just from one look at her face. And to be fair, she's looking really damn good for 44. When they invite Shoya over to help bake her mother a cake, she immediately is on the defensive seeing him. It shows that she doesn't trust Shoya still, but since her children are open to it, she's okay with it for now. And sure enough, eventually Shoya earns her trust. Eiko is so protective of her children, she even fights Naoka, who's beating up Shoko in one scene, which is really shocking to see because typically adults are bigger than, stooping to fighting teenagers. Even Yuzuru is shocked at this, but it's Miyako who breaks up the fight. Miyako is different from Eiko in terms of parenting style. She's a little bit more hands-off in her approach, but she keeps an eye from afar to make sure Shoya doesn't get into too much trouble or to reel him back in when he does. Case in point, Miyako finding out Shoya wanted to commit suicide. While accidental, she burns up all of his savings, but, scolds him. Much like Eiko, she's a good mother. But then again, this could just be me having a thing for anime MILFs, but I don't know. I like to think I'm genuine when it comes to anime MILFs. In closing, A Silent Voice is one of the best anime films of all time, and to you, the general viewer watching this, you know that's nothing new when it comes to videos of randoms on the internet like myself reviewing this film. It isn't controversial to say, but instead, I think the universal love for this film is a rare thing in this day and age. With so many opinions to sift through and so much knowledge out there, A Silent Voice is a darling to any anime fan or people who watch this film, and I know there's definitely people who hate this film. There's always contrarians. This film, in many ways, has gone on to change the landscape of anime films with its inventive art direction. The style has been aped a fair bit since its release, and for good reason. Plus, this is without a shadow of a doubt, Naoko Yamada's best work to date just from a directing standpoint alone. She was amazing in this role for this film, and it makes her previous works like K-On! And Tamako Love Story pale in comparison to what she was able to achieve with this work. Kensuke Yoshido was able to create a score that captured the fragility of youth and at the same time, the harsh reality of living. The sound design from sound director Yoda Tsuruoka, I want to apologize, was amazing. And the scene at the festival has one of the most impactful portrayals of fireworks, with the booming and explosive sound coming through like you're actually there. And much like the controlled explosives of fireworks, A Silent Voice has impact and oomph to it from every aspect. And this is what people call an all-time film. And I think as the years go on, this will stand the test of time and become a classic. KyoAni really did create something special with A Silent Voice, and if by chance you haven't seen it, what are you doing? It's on Netflix right now. And hey, speaking of watching this film, you can do that yourself by entering this giveaway to win a Silent Voice box set valued at roughly $80 on Right Stuff. The rules are very simple. All you need to do is 3 things. To be eligible to win, you must subscribe to both my channel and Right Stuff's YouTube channel. After you've done that, all you need to do is comment that you want the box set. From there, make sure you have a way that I can contact you. I have a Twitter at SeaTacticsYT, and as well, my business email is available on my Twitter page. Trust me, you do not want to share your address in a YouTube comment section. From there, we'll get you your information and get you the package in a couple of weeks after the giveaway ends. So you'll be able to watch this great film in Blu-ray quality. But what exactly are you getting in this box set? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I can show you physically just exactly what you're getting. You'll first be getting this beautiful chipboard box containing the film, a 60-page booklet, and some very nice looking art cards. In the Blu-ray set, you'll be getting a ton of extras, like interviews with the staff from Kensuke Yoshido to the embodiment of Moe herself, Naoko Yamada. Plus, you'll get a short The Making of a Silent Voice documentary. Also, some cool benefits is a commentary track featuring the VAs for the Nishimiya sisters, Naoko Yamada, and other key staff from KyoAni. In the booklet, you'll be getting the storyboards for Speed of Youth and Koi wo Shida no wa, which are featured exclusively in this set. You can't get them anywhere else. It's a neat little box set for sure, and I enjoyed my time with it, but I wanted to give this to someone who would appreciate it just as much as I have. So good luck, and I hope you will enjoy this film as much as I did. Also, before we do the outro, I posted the original script of this video on my Patreon. I actually restarted the script 3 different times, so I thought I'd share with you a completed 7-page review of this film that I didn't feel was good enough to make it onto this channel. At least right now, who knows about the future. The links to the original script will be in the description below. So with that being said, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and ring the bell. That's pretty important if you want to win that box set. And as well, I have a Patreon where on the $1 tier and above, you can get access to literally everything on there, which is pretty great. So thanks for watching, you guys. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.